a little bit about your background as a pianist and composer and all those beautiful things. How did you get started with this?
So it starts, I was 5 years old, and I started taking piano lessons from a piano teacher who she literally lived right across the street. I have an older sister, and she was taking lessons, and I admire her so much, and even did back then. And so when you're that age, 4, 5, 6, you want to do things that your older siblings do.
Yeah.
And that was one of them. My sister was an amazing pianist. She was a brilliant clarinetist as well. And so my brother and I started piano at 5, and then, like her sister as well, we picked up our other instruments, for me, trumpet, for Jared, saxophone, at age 10. And it's been almost 35 years later, what started as interest, as interest and just something that we were good at and just loved to do, evolved not in a linear way, but in the way it should, has evolved into a career, a platform, a gift to the community, a tool for the community. So I guess, long story short, that's where all of it started.
Yeah. So, recently you have just kind of, blown up in the community and garnered a lot of interest for your work through things like Village Voices that you have sitting here on the piano stand, and something new, which is where we're at right now, the Salon. Talk about how the community has just been a big part of why you pour so much into what it is you do.
Yeah, I make no bones about it at all. And every chance I get, I tell people that my career, as we see it, as I know it, was started from the community. And so that's where my first allegiance and obligation is too. I've played for my entire life, but publicly playing as a performer, as a whatever, that's only been something on piano in the last 5 years or so. Just because I was way too nervous, didn't have the confidence, didn't think I was good enough.
Wow. So where did the confidence come from even 5 years ago to dive in?
I don't know. It was one of those where you wrestle with some of these things, right? And when there's something that you feel that you're called to and you're supposed to do, we can think, and then we get to that point where we overthink. And then it sits in here, and the thing that once was potential, if it doesn't do anything, I feel like it turns into poison. And I had a really good friend of mine before I started venturing out to do stuff, and he said, it's better to be received positively, negatively, or with indifference than to keep all this inside of you and not be received at all.
Wow.
And so it just became one of those where it's like, all right, well, if that's what it is, then just get it out, and that's your job. Now, how everyone else receives it is how they do, but if you're intentional and mindful in what you're saying or trying to say and trying to convey, that's our job as the artist. And then once we release it to the community and the public, we don't own all of it anymore. It's not for us anymore. We've crafted it, and then we've released it, and now it's for the use of those who experience it, to either receive it well or not well, or with indifference. Yeah. That's none of my business. That I don't care so much about.
Yeah. So in this 5 years, from my, perception, it seems that the community has, received you very well. A couple of the nicknames.
Which, thank you, by the way, because I don't know what I'm doing either. Sometimes I'm just making this stuff up.
And maybe that's the key, is just to kind of make it up and just kind of, bring that authenticity into it. And I think, honestly, it's something that has made the type of music that you share, classical music, more accessible. Growing up, I loved classical music. I regularly listened to the public access channels on the radio just to kind of get my classical music fix. But it was a place that I didn't often see myself as a Black person, even though I knew better. I knew that our people had something to do with this music, and I knew that these things were, made excellent by us as well as other composers. Like, that excellence didn't, live and die in Austria or anywhere else,
right,
where this music was being played, but that we could enjoy it too. But I just didn't have many examples.
And, and this is what I do for a living. And I'm one of many people of African descent in the world of classical music. So for you as a listener, as a patron, as we say, growing up, your experience is the exact same as those of us who grew up studying this, listening to it, and even performing now. Especially when everything is hiding in plain sight. I think that's the one interesting question when people ask, because I do exclusively research and program and perform masterworks written by composers of African descent, and with the most innocent of curiosities, people ask, well, where do you find all of this? And the reality is, it's like it's not even hiding; it's in plain sight.
Wow.
There has been a conscious and unconscious effort to subvert these works.
So give me an example, because I hear that a lot when you look at other fields, like this was a conscious effort to, silence the voices of people of color, and specifically of Black people. What are some examples of that in the field of classical music?
Pick any composer, pick any piece of music. I mean, it's very much like, or actually, I think the better example or connection to make is to go outside of classical music, but just music in general. But it's still all part of the art. So let's look at our body of work in literature. Let's look at the body of work when it comes to science and industry and engineering. For the most part, what we read in books, what we hear about, the names that are on buildings and everything else that are great, the same mechanisms that have excluded and marginalized those individuals in those fields is the same machine that's operating within classical music. So that's not unique to classical music. It just shows how broad and deep in scope white supremacy, marginalization, discrimination for a myriad of different reasons, and disenfranchisement is used as a salve over anything and everything that people who are anything but white and male fall under. So that's not unique to this field at all. You'll find it everywhere for the exact same reasons that you find it everywhere. Yeah. Classical music's no exception.
Wow. So in what it is that you're doing, like bringing this out to the community, making this, more accessible. We're in the salon right now, which was kind of born during COVID.
Yes. Yes.
Tell us about how you even came up with this concept and exactly what it is for people that are unfamiliar.
Right. So it's the Salon Series with Sock Joplin. That happens. So Sock Joplin is my handle if you follow me on Instagram. And the reason why
you have a fabulous socks right now.
So the reason why I do is I never play with shoes on, and so I kind of think of a fun way to, liminal and subliminal messages to relate accessibility and lack of pretense. It's also a reminder for me. I'm like, hey, let's not take yourself or this too seriously. Just have fun.
Yeah.
And so sometimes my socks are more fun than the shows themselves. Sometimes they are. But earlier this year, as part of one of the Arts Council's Beckman Emerging Artist Fellow, myself and Manon Voice, another very prominent artist, poet, activist here in Indianapolis, and a really dear friend of mine. I love me some Manon.
Me too. I love me some Manon.
Right? It's like that smoldering eye, like it goes deep.
No, we go to her performances, and it's like an inside joke with friends because she doesn't sing. But like our inside joke is to yell, "Sing, Manon!" like every time
she can though. That's the crazy part.
Well, okay,
she
I
can.
haven't heard her do that yet.
You will hear it sparingly, and I'm just like, really? Okay. When that's ready to pop out, she will do that.
Oh yeah.
But we are both the emerging artist fellows, and so the beginning of 2020, I was in Boston doing my site visit for research, teaching master classes, and some performances. And I was tracing cultural through lines in music from an Africana studies perspective there for the end of February throughout the month of March, working with the Berklee School or the Berklee College of Music and the Boston Conservatory. And the dean who was there and who I was working with, he happens to be this year's president of the selection committee for the 2020 Pulitzer Prize in Music.
Wow.
So that's who I was working with. And what won the Pulitzer Prize in Music for 2020 is an opera written by a Black gentleman that is based on the Central Park Five. And so it's just really important. And so the whole scope of that fellowship was the things that I need, the resources that I need to extend my career and get better at what I'm doing. They're not here. They are not here in Indianapolis. I do not see them coming here in Indianapolis fast enough. And so while that's one side of the equation, the other side is, but I know where to go in which to get them. So this was resource acquisition for me to put into application. None of this would have happened probably if it hadn't been for that experience. So I come back and COVID hits and whatever else, and
You almost had some trouble getting home, didn't you, during
Yeah,
COVID?
like the day
Yeah.
before I was supposed to come back. I mean, the airport was at Logan International. I think that's Boston's shutting down. I'm sitting at the bar waiting for my flight,
Yeah.
and things. I'm like, can I get home? And I
Wow.
was able to, barely. And so it was just weird. And like other artists here and nationally, we all had contracts for all of 2020 that included
Oh my
touring and
gosh.
tour. So this is COVID wiping out substantial amounts of income, more so opportunities to produce projects that we'd already been working on independently with others. So all that's gone, and so you spend April through May like just
Yeah.
let's just be real.
Feeling so sorrowful and all of that. Yeah.
Living in your pajamas for 3 days in a row, not caring, and just being fine. And then you have this moment where you just kind of emerge, and the dust has settled enough around your ankles or wherever it is for you to kind of see some stuff and how things might work out and how to work smart and not necessarily hard.
Yeah. I don't think any of us has the energy to work hard right now.
I
I'm just gonna be honest with
None
you.
of us do,
It's
right?
enough energy to just survive.
And so this space is, between a combination of career changes and transitions that 2020 has brought me, some major transitions in my personal life that 2020 has brought me. Here comes this opportunity that presents itself at the end of June, beginning of July. And I knew in order to survive and thrive during this time, I needed
Yeah.
to have a space where I can work. And one thing I feel that is very difficult for artists and creatives to explain, and when we talk about how you support and value, our work looks different. We are not 9 to 5ers who put on a suit and punch. Our work looks different.
Yeah.
And so we have to be able to see what work looks like if we expect anyone to see the value in it, let alone put a price tag on what that value is. My workspace and how I like to just requires the need of a baby grand piano and an and an art gallery. That's just how I like to work, because this sets the space and the tone for the community of artists to not have to pay to rent a space out, to come and work.
Yeah.
To work and be in a space with other creatives and
So
collaborators
this
that they
is a
do know.
space. This is a space that any artist can use, like people
Absolutely.
that you invite over and whatnot.
It's and the invitation is, Monday through Sunday these doors open at 10 a.m. and they lock at 7 p.m. and you come in and the only requirement is that you just bring work.
Let's see. What brings me into this space basically is the sense of community, which I've always defined as common unity. I open the salon doors. I greet everybody. I also help with some of the daily functions as far as scheduling, making sure everything gets open and closed at the right time. But basically, what brings me into this space is just that it's a peaceful place for everybody to get their work done, network with some positive people in the community, and just stay busy.
It's a fun place to be with Josh opening it up to other creatives, and I mean really anybody, but you're gonna see a lot of creatives here. He also has artwork featured up, and I think I'm one of the features this month with artwork. My photography being up with the hip hop scene, and it's just it's a great environment. It is kind of like maybe what the Harlem Renaissance was like, where you've got all these different, you've got singers, rappers, like classically trained pianists, and hip hop artists, and producers, and photographers. Anybody cooks coming in, you don't know. Everybody's got something to offer, and they're just coming in here and hanging out and doing their work sometimes, and coming and going.
One of the things that I love about working here is we're peers. So we're able to hold each other accountable, um, while also being able to give each other space. So I don't have to worry about someone being too loud or too close to me. Like, I have the freedom to operate on my schedule how I want to, as well as if I need feedback, being able to bounce ideas off of someone really quickly, really easily, um, in the comfort of a non-traditional office.
You have been hosting live performances, right, in this space with vocalists and dancers and all types of things. So tell us about what that vibe is like when people come in.
It's everything. Oh, it's fun. It's all about not pretentious. So I'm always one, if you go to the IMA or if you go to any museum, like usually when I travel, I'm always like, I want to go to the aquarium. I want to go to the art museum. No matter what city I'm in, it's on the list. No matter how big or small the museum is either. I've always been one of those where I would have really liked to have like fancy but not fancy cocktail parties and hangout sessions in a museum where my friends can get together and we can just like geek out and have fun. And so I've turned my house into that. And it is absolutely that. You come dressed up or you come in your pajamas, we don't care. And you just hang out. And so the second and fourth Friday and Saturday of every single month, we run shows, a 6 p.m. on every night and an 8 p.m. on every night. And we take pretty much exactly what I've been doing in my career, which is highlighting the masterworks of composers of African descent, pairing them with visual artists, culinary artists, mixologists, dancers, you name it, anything that is creative and such, where we can trace the connectivity to show the Black aesthetic, to show where our massive thumbprint has always been in the fine arts in general. Also to show how it can be evolved and adapted to the times that's a little bit more familiar now with some of these other genres. That's what we do here. And so every month the show is different and it's limit 10 people and everyone has to have a mask on because we have to take care of the community. And so the community needs to feel safe in order for us to continue to do things. So while there may be restrictions and barriers, these things are still attainable. Yeah. They're reachable. We're super fortunate to have people who sponsor the salon every month, so that way we literally can just open the door and have the gallery and have the shows free and open to the public. We also have other entities and entrepreneurs who are running workshops and their own classes out of here, and those sponsorships help to subsidize so they can make it free and open to the public. But the studio is able to be rented out at no cost to the community. We have people in the community and nonprofits and corporations who see the value of what's happening and know that the wealth is in our neighborhoods and they are investing that wealth in the resources, human and otherwise, that are here. And so that is the broader mission and purpose of the space while I still have it. And the performance is just kind of a nice little icing on the cake to entice others into who just want to see and come for that. For those who want to come and work and dive in, it's a place to do that too.
Yeah, beautiful. It feels a lot like a Harlem Renaissance type of vibe. Like that's what I get from it is, you know, back in the day when they would have, you know, salons and invite people over, and that was really what it was for all of these different people to collaborate with one another and build together.
One of the fascinating things I found out about doing some of the research on the composers and even the pieces is where that Harlem Renaissance connection actually is. In doing a piece that I'll have, there's one called Ring Play by William Grant Still. This melody is really nice, but its inspiration came from it because he was collaborating and good friends with Zora Neale Hurston.
Wow.
And she went to, it was either Haiti or Cuba, and she learned these dances from there, and she came back and she showed him, and these dances from a poet inspired classical music. You know, I do another piece as well. It's on October's program. Brilliant composer Margaret Bonds. She's writing the music. Langston Hughes wrote the libretto to this beautiful art song. And so you're absolutely right. We always seem to talk about Black arts movements as if there are two. There is the Harlem Renaissance, and then there is a Black Power movement. Some of them, they won't even take the time to differentiate between the two. But all of them are just very organic ways in which artists and creatives and like-minded people kind of have a consortium and a think tank. And so that is always happening. So how many other Black arts movements have actually occurred or are occurring now that we have not highlighted as such because we don't operate in this form of think tank, entrepreneur meets community meets art, and we do it anyway, so let's call it out for what it is and show people the example of how it works, because it's meant to be replicated. It's meant to be perpetuated and ongoing. If we're going to perpetuate white supremacy, let's perpetuate the antithesis, right?
Exactly.
Why wouldn't we do that? And we have ways in which we are all called and specialized in which to do that.
Exactly. I often think about that when you said, like, we could spend our time perpetuating white supremacy, or, there's another choice as well. And I really feel like this time that we're in, of so many different things being taken from us, like when they put restrictions, they closed down the bars and the restaurants, which are performance spaces that a lot of these people had to go to make their money. They closed down, these different facilities that we're used to having, and the way of life is just different in general.
Right.
Now we're being forced to, I don't even like to use the word forced. I like to think of it as being invited. We're being invited to live differently. We're being invited to commune with each other differently. So I'm excited about this new way of being. What are your thoughts about that as far as what the future is going to hold for arts here in the city, given the world that we live in now?
The artists here and everywhere are going to be that. Pandemic or not, white supremacy or not, whether people shine a light on them, whether people pay them the value, we're going to do this anyway. And we take that responsibility seriously. So we know what we're going to do and what we're supposed to. That conversation, you're asking the wrong person. I'm just going to be honest, you're asking the wrong person.
Like my grandma would say, one monkey don't stop no show.
At all. I have a more colorful way
that
I say, because y'all ain't going to mess up the way I eat. That's your PG version. That question is better suited for the philanthropist, better suited for the arts patron, for the arts administrator, for the arts and culture organization who says, in as much sincerity as they think they have, that we support. Okay, well, how do you know that you're being effective? Because if you're not holding yourselves to the same standards that the artists are, then it is absolutely impossible for you to support the arts and artists. Everything that you want to support, it's our byproduct. We got to get up in the morning. We got to have energy for that. We got to have a roof over our head, because you never know what we will turn our roof into. We got to have food on our table, because that's how we sustain ourselves, because you don't know how we all completely sustain the community. All that food I make, it may not be for me. And so don't ask the artist what it looks like in the future. We already know. We were doing this before the pandemic even happened anyway, because people were not opening their doors or writing checks or making opportunities for us to sustain ourselves and thrive, but yet out of the other side of people's mouths, they want to talk about we respect and value artists. No, you don't. And just say you don't, and then say you don't know how to. I'll have that conversation with you. That's okay, because myself and other people can show you how. But don't assume that you know that you... Don't assume that. That's offensive. That's disrespectful, and you're missing the mark.
Got it. So then I'll switch up the question for you, just in case any of those people having to watch this, what is the response to them as far as what it is that they can do? Because what I'm hearing from you is that the show must go on. Like, that's what you hear in showbiz all the time. The show must go on.
Yep.
Artists are going to continue to create, whatever different type of show that is.
Right.
So what do they need to do?
I love how you bring that up. I'm actually presenting on Thursday for the Indiana Arts Homecoming with the Indiana Arts Commission. A presentation and a curriculum that I have that's based off the research that I did in Boston, and have adapted it to work. And I will be doing these Thursday as a very brief overview. But for 2021, arts and cultural organizations will have the opportunity to hire me as their strategic consultant for this longer and broader workshop, or a fee.
Absolutely.
Always. What it comes down to is we have to change the framework in which we're operating out of. The current one that we operate for arts and administration does not work if we want to truly support artists. So my intention with this presentation and with this curriculum is to completely disrupt and replace your current operating procedures, and we replace it with a framework that is rooted in the Africana studies that automatically will highlight for artists, arts administrators, and community development ways in which to comprehensively be supportive, to help with community, to help with job creation and development, and also hold us all accountable to these things, because the arts are just one part of a community. They do not stand alone in a vacuum. And we need to stop thinking about, I'm arts and culture only. Okay, but your artists live in a community.
Yes.
You live in a community, and if your community does not want pictures of bunny rabbits screwing on the wall, don't put it in there. Just don't do it. Because what are you really trying to say here? Like, do art, but people want to wake up and feel a part of and proud of the neighborhood they live in. And a big way is let them be part of the art.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. What are you looking forward to?
I am looking forward to November 23rd because the night before will be my last performance for the year. I'll be at the Palladium, at the Center for the Performing Arts in Carmel. And then for the rest of the year, until the first week of 2021, you will not see me. I am taking a break. And I'm just going
a much needed break.
I am just going to disappear. I told a few people, so those who know. Y'all don't hear from me. I gotta rest a little bit and chill out. Because I do have my plans. The artist community to which I'm a part of, we have plans for 2021. And it looks like performances, it looks like speaking engagements, it's teaching artists and curriculum and workshops, but it also looks like us being good stewards and being good neighbors and being a part of the community where I will take that artist hat off and I will be a neighbor. Or I'll be a community member sometimes, right, and have and that. So I'm looking forward to that. Short term, what I'm looking forward to is the next, it's not even 60 days anymore. I can't wait to get the hell up out of here.
Listen, I feel you.
Yeah, right? Because you work hard. I mean, and that's the fun part, right? Mm-hmm. All this comes together. We share each other's platforms. We're all doing the same work. We're coming at it from different angles, and it's so necessary. We give each other balance for that. So you've been really inspiring and fun to watch for me. You really have. You just really have. I like the way you operate.
That's sweet. Thank you. I appreciate that so much. And on that note, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your energy in this beautiful conversation.
Thank you. You are welcome to come work and hang at the salon.
I will.
Anytime. So please do. The door's unlocked at 10 a.m.
Awesome. I'll be here.